now the power lies in people like AOC and Morgan Harper.
Well, this is an incredible crowd. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Just quick show of hands, how many people are from Ohio? Oh, great. Yay! Okay, cool. How many people are from Central Ohio? Even better. Okay, perfect. I just wanted to kind of get a sense of the crowd and for us to all see a little bit of like what our crowd is. And what did you say? Three. Because, well, let me start at the beginning, actually. So Jen gave a little bit of a preview, but so I was born here in Columbus. I was given up for adoption. I lived in a foster home and was adopted and raised on the east side by my mom, who actually immigrated to Ohio from Trinidad. And we went through a lot of early financial stress and trauma, but it opened up opportunity for me to get financial aid, like Jane said, to go to an elite college preparatory institution, right? And I saw the fundamental inequality that is at work in Central Ohio and across this country. That if you're born to money, if you're put in the right school system or the right zip code where you're born, then your life is set and you have unlimited resources and it's your game to lose and everybody else just has to figure it out. That is the system that we have created. At age 10, knowing nothing else really about the world, that struck me as fundamentally unfair, and I had a feeling I was going to devote my life to doing something about it. So I just went to work, right? And you know, when I was younger in high school, it looked like volunteerism. By the time I got to college, I learned there is this thing called public policy, and that's what actually is controlling everything. It was my first clue that these politicians are the ones that are setting that, and I was like, all right, I got to figure that out. I went back to school, like we said, I studied public policy at the graduate level, I became a lawyer, I worked at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, where I saw the power of government when given the resources and mandate to actually protect and fight for working people, what is possible. $12 billion back to 28 million consumers across the country, including here in Central Ohio. And it made me see it can work, right? The myth that we've been taught that somehow government investing in us, investing in our communities is irresponsible is not true, and we have to do something to correct that, right? So, you know, I worked in community development most recently, and it was there slowly, I would say, over the past year or so that things really started clicking for me. Because in my job there, I saw what I already knew as a 10-year-old, but I started to see it all across the country. My job was to go to all of our offices in every major metro area across the United States, and I saw that my North Star, the east side of Columbus, a place that has not done well economically over the past 30 years, that a lot of the neighborhoods where I spent a lot of my childhood in the urban core parts of Columbus have only stayed at the same poverty levels over those years, and nobody's talking about it. And if they are changing, it's because new people are moving in, but not because anybody that's been living there is doing any better. But once you start seeing that, it's something we all really know, but when you really see it, that is happening in every single metro area across this country, you cannot deny it. Our system is broken. Our system has failed us, and market-based solutions will not save us. And in fact, I was pretty clear what would, right? Is the federal government getting back, taking our money that we pay to the federal government and investing it in us and investing in our communities. And so I went with my conclusion, again, just Morgan Harper, policy professional, whatever you want to call it, and I started to look more closely. Well, what is our federal representative doing right here in Central Ohio? What is she talking about in Washington? And probably not surprised to hear, nothing very impressive in the sense that the world is on fire. I said it to the New York Times this past week, and I will say it again. The world is on fire. A maniac is in the White House. Our communities are being decimated by drugs, poverty, and no one is talking about it. What is our representative talking about? None of those issues, right? I left that meeting learning about, platform on financial literacy, which is an important topic, right? It's important that people know how to manage their money, but I don't know if you all have had the same experience. Those that tend to have less money are pretty good at managing it, right? And so we really need to be talking about the systemic inequality that is happening everywhere, and especially here in one of the most economically segregated regions of our country, Columbus, Ohio, Franklin County. And when I saw that that wasn't being discussed, that the urgency was not there, I was horrified, dismayed, disappointed, but I shouldn't have been. Because every single time that I thought about ever going to work on the Hill, because I've worked in Washington, like I said, I got the advice, save yourself, right? It's where talent goes to die, nothing gets done there. We have given over an institution of our government for a generation to no expectations, no accountability. And I shouldn't have been surprised, but maybe so, a little bit naive, I was. And I was like, you know what? I can't shake it, right? Because this is the mission of my life, getting at that inequality that I observed when I was 10 years old, and I cannot let it go. So, but what are you gonna do? Like take on a Democratic incumbent in Congress? That would be crazy, right? So, I kind of was stewing on that, and then 2018 happened, right? We saw women of color, women that didn't necessarily come from money, women that hadn't been taxed by the party and told it's your turn, or kiss the right ring, or run for 5 offices before they get to the point where they can be in Congress and advocate for their communities. And I had to be really honest with myself. Somebody that, like I said, this is my mission. I've been pretty clear about it my whole life, and I had to be honest that if I wasn't willing to do the same, the only reason why was because I was afraid. Because I was afraid of failure, embarrassment, getting laughed at by some of the people I had worked for or with, and I couldn't accept that. I had to get over that. And so I started talking to some people that I knew. Was like, don't you see what I see? Don't you see we could do better? And don't you see that we have to do better? Because aren't we theoretically all about trying to get at this inequality thing, trying to get that working people are able to have their basic needs met, that this American dream thing, that you get to be born here and set out a life for yourself and pursue a life of opportunity where you also have all of your basic needs met? That's what we're about, right? And they kind of looked at me like, no. If you're thinking about taking on a Democratic incumbent in Congress, you better think again, because it is career suicide, it is political suicide, you will never recover from it, you're going to turn your community against you, and think very, very carefully about that. And I, again, shocked, I'm like, no, this is what we're about, right? And this is a critical moment for our country where there is a movement happening to do the things in Washington that we know need to get done, and if you're not about that, well, then you're not about what I'm about. You're not with me, and you're not on the side of justice. And so I started looking into it. I did all the things that we're told, if you're going to think about doing this, right, look into it. And I just gathered that information. 80% corporate PAC money, right? What's the base of support look like? That's what what is the base of support? 80% corporate PAC money. So base of support, companies. What are companies about? Making money, right? 3% small dollar donations. What are those about? People. Not a lot of those, right? So that tells to me not a strong base of support, except for the people that don't need any protection in Washington at all, because I've seen them. They have the people that they can fly in and advocate for them and take all the meetings and do all the things. And real people need the government to also be there to represent us, right? So. And then I also learned a history of blocking payday lending legislation that would have protected our communities and our people against a financial product that is predatory, that charges 500% interest rates, that preys on people that don't already have a lot of money, and makes sure that they never, ever, ever get out of debt. Ever. And that's not okay, right? Because you're supposed to be protecting us, you're supposed to be advocating for us, and at the very least, please, use your power to do something other than make money, but I can't trust that you're about that either. Especially while we have family members that are collecting money from payday lending lobbyists, right? So, next mark there. Third mark, learning that in this position, introducing legislation that was going to make it harder for CFPB, the institution where I worked, to go after banks that are charging Black people and other people of color higher interest rates. Not okay. And so with that, I felt like, you know what? We're going for this, right? Because this is what I'm about. This is the moment where we need to make sure that everyone in this country has health care, right? Housing, the ability to work one job and actually live, and gosh. I mean, Central Ohio is going to be a part of that. I was going to use bad language, but I'm not going to do that. No, and I really, really believed in the people here in Central Ohio could support this platform, and so we went for it. We went for it. We launched July 1st of this year, and we're showing people all of the things that I was told. You're never going to raise any money, even from progressives, honestly. You know, if you don't take corporate PAC money, you won't be able to support this kind of race. Well, I'm like, if I can't do it without corporate money, then I can't do it at all, and we're going to show them. And we have showed them. We raised $323,000 in our first quarter. Probably from a lot of people who are here, but I won't call anybody out if you donated or not. 90% of those donations, $100 or less. So we are flipping the script on what's possible through our politicians, and we're doing it in Ohio. That was the other thing I heard. This is not Queens, New York. You're never going to be able to pursue a progressive platform in Central Ohio. Get with it. And like, no, because you know what not my compass is and my North Star are real working people in Central Ohio that I've known my entire life, and they are people that believe in fairness, that believe that you should be able to work a job that supports you and your family, that believes in doing something about the environment and the Green New Deal, that believes that everyone should have health care and that everybody has a right to housing. And that is what I'm going on, and it is also proving to be true because we received 90% of zip codes that make up the 3rd district. We got donations from them. So that shows you the Midwest can do this. We received the most number of donations from Ohio. Midwest can do this, right? These are not East Coast trust fund values that are being posed on the Midwest. These are real working people. They are us. We are us, and we are serious about pursuing this platform in Washington. Green New Deal, Medicare for all, housing. It's going to happen. It's going to happen here in Columbus, Ohio, and it's going to happen on March 17th, 2020.